My hand trembled as I placed the resignation letter on Lennox Hayes's mahogany desk. Not because I was nervous. I was absolutely livid. The man had just canceled my 6-month project in front of the entire board of directors, with that cold smile he reserved for crushing dreams. "Read it," I said, crossing my arms. "Out loud if you want." Lennox didn't even glance at the paper. His steel-gray eyes, which I secretly hated for being so annoyingly beautiful on such an insufferable man, fixed on mine with unsettling calm. Then he opened his desk drawer, pulled out a red folder, and slid it across to me. "Before you throw an unnecessary tantrum, Paige, I suggest you read this." I grabbed the folder so hard I nearly tore it. Unnecessary tantrum? Me? The man had turned my presentation into corporate comedy, and I was being dramatic. I opened the folder expecting to find, I don't know, maybe a warning letter, or some tedious corporate document about appropriate professional conduct. It was a marriage certificate, with my name, and his name, dated 3 weeks ago. "What the heck is this?" I practically screamed, and Janet, his secretary, probably heard through the soundproof walls. Probably half the 42nd floor heard. Lennox leaned back in his chair, interlacing his fingers with that infuriatingly relaxed posture he always had when destroying people's lives. "It's exactly what it looks like. You and I got married in Las Vegas 3 weeks ago. Honeymoon cut short because you insisted on returning for the project presentation, which, ironically, you just discovered I canceled." My brain was short-circuiting. Las Vegas 3 weeks ago. I had gone to that tech conference, and on the last night, oh no, the dang tequila that California developer kept offering me, the bar with neon lights, and Lennox Hayes, my boss, the youngest CEO in Hayes Technologies history, the man I secretly found unbearably attractive when he wasn't making me want to throw things at him, was there too. Memory fragments started surfacing like slow-motion GIFs. Laughter, a ridiculously tacky chapel, a terrible Elvis impersonator singing "Can't Help Falling in Love," and Lennox saying something about lifetime contracts, while I laughed like it was the funniest joke in the world. "This is impossible," I said, but my voice came out weaker than intended. "This isn't legally valid. We were drunk. Not as drunk as you think. I drank water the whole time. You, on the other hand," he paused, and I swear I saw an almost smile, "were surprisingly eloquent about how I was a functional jerk with stupidly perfect hair. Your words, not mine. I didn't say that. I did not say that. Except, I totally said that. And you married me anyway?" My voice went up 3 octaves. "What kind of psycho?" "The kind who was tired of you threatening to quit every time we disagreed about product direction." He finally leaned forward, and for the first time in 2 years working under his icy tyranny, I saw something different in his eyes. Not coldness, something warmer, more dangerous. "You're the best developer this company has ever had, Paige Sutton, and I'm not going to let you throw your career away because of your pride." My pride? I was officially having an aneurysm. "You canceled 6 months of work because 3 companies are already developing the same technology and will launch first. I saved you from public failure." He took my resignation letter, methodically tore it into 4 pieces, and tossed it in the trash. "And about the resignation? Denied. Spouses have special protection under the company's HR policy. Section 4.7, paragraph 3. You'd have to divorce me first." I looked at him, at the certificate, at him again. "You planned this," I said slowly, realization hitting like a cartoon piano. "You got me drunk, married me, and used it as some kind of strategic talent retention," he offered with that smooth, controlled voice that drove me crazy. "Yes, although to be technically accurate, you proposed to me. It was quite convincing, actually. Something about, if you're so good at making corporate contracts, let's make a lifetime contract and see if you can honor this one." My face was on fire. My entire body was on fire. "Divorce," I said. "Now, today, this morning." "Impossible." He opened another folder. Of course there was another folder. "Nevada has a 2-week waiting period for mutual consent divorce. And since you signed a prenuptial agreement," "Yes, you signed it. It's right here, with your drunk but legible signature. Any non-consensual divorce takes months of litigation." He slid another paper across. It was a photo. A freaking photo of the 2 of us in front of the chapel. Him in an impeccable dark suit. Me in a red dress that definitely wasn't mine. both holding a certificate, and I was smiling, genuinely happy, and he was looking at me with an expression I'd never seen on Lennox Hayes's face. Tenderness. Why would you do this? My voice came out almost as a whisper. For the first time, Lennox Hayes looked uncertain. He ran a hand through his hair, which for the record was stupidly perfect, and when he looked at me again, there was something vulnerable in his expression. Because for the past 2 years, Paige, you've been the only person in this company who argues with me, who challenges my ideas, who makes me work to prove I'm right. He paused. And that night in Vegas, for the first time, you weren't seeing me as your boss. You were seeing me as Lennox. Just Lennox. The silence between us was so thick you could cut it with a knife. So, he continued, his voice returning to that professional, controlled tone, here's the proposal. 2 weeks. You stay married to me for 2 weeks. Keep working on the new project I've already approved for you. Yes, I already have another one lined up. And at the end of that period, we sign the mutual divorce. No complications. And if I refuse, you won't. He smiled. A real smile this time. Not that cold corporate smile. Because you're dying of curiosity to know what project this is. And because deep down, Paige Sutton, you love an impossible challenge. He was right. I hated that he was right. I picked up the marriage certificate, looked at that ridiculous photo of us both happy in Vegas, and then looked at the man in front of me, my boss, my constant rival, and apparently my accidental husband. 2 weeks, I said, and you will approve my next project without question. Depends on the project. Lennox? Kidding. That almost smile again. It's approved. I should have left, should have called a lawyer, should have done anything except stand there looking at Lennox Hayes and realizing that maybe, just maybe, I didn't hate this situation as much as I should. Oh, he said as I turned to leave, there's one other small complication. Of course there was. Forbes magazine is doing a feature on Silicon Valley power couples, and they want to interview us tomorrow. Your mother also called 3 times today. Apparently I listed you as my emergency contact at the hospital when you had that food poisoning. She's very excited to meet her son-in-law. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath. You ruined my life. Technically, you ruined your own life. I just officially documented it. When I opened my eyes, Lennox was standing, adjusting his tie, ready for his next meeting as if he hadn't just exploded my entire existence. Oh, and Paige? He paused at the door. Welcome to the Hayes family. Sunday dinner is mandatory. The door closed. I looked at the marriage certificate in my hands, at the shredded resignation letter in the trash, and I started laughing. Because the alternative was crying or committing corporate homicide. 2 weeks. How hard could it be? The Forbes journalist looked like she ate corporate secrets for breakfast and spit out career-ending exposés by lunch. Her name was Vanessa Park, and she had the kind of sharp, assessing gaze that made me feel like she could smell my panic from across the conference room table. So, Vanessa said, clicking her pen with the precision of a loaded weapon, how did you two meet? Lennox didn't miss a beat. His hand found mine on the table, warm, steady, completely confident, and he smiled at me with an expression so tender it almost looked real. Paige walked into my office 2 years ago for her first day at Hayes Technologies. She had a coffee stain on her blazer and was already arguing with security about the visitor badge policy. I blinked. That was actually true. How did he remember that? I told them their system was inefficient, I said, finding my voice. It took 45 minutes to get a temporary badge when it should take 5. And did you fix it? Vanessa asked, scribbling notes. She redesigned the entire entry protocol within her first week, Lennox said, and there was genuine pride in his voice. Cost us nothing, saved approximately 200 hours per month in aggregate wait time across all employees. Vanessa's eyebrow arched. Impressive, but that doesn't explain the romance. When did professional respect turn into this? She gestured vaguely at our joined hands. This was the moment. The lie we should have rehearsed but hadn't because I'd spent all of last night stress eating Thai food and Googling how to survive a fake marriage to your evil boss. Vegas, I blurted out. It was the tech conference 3 weeks ago. Lennox's thumb traced a small circle on my hand. A warning? Reassurance? I couldn't tell. We'd been dancing around it for months, he said smoothly. The attraction, the tension. But we're both workaholics, and the office always felt like the wrong place to address personal feelings. So you got drunk and eloped? Vanessa's tone was dry enough to start a wildfire. We got honest, Lennox corrected. Sometimes tequila just accelerates the inevitable. I wanted to kick him under the table. Instead, I squeezed his hand probably harder than necessary and smiled sweetly. Lennox has a way of being extremely persuasive when he wants something. And you wanted to marry him? Vanessa directed the question at me like a prosecutor going for the kill. Did I? The old Paige from 3 weeks ago apparently did. Drunk Paige who thought lifetime contracts were hilarious. But current Paige, sitting here with Lennox's hand warming mine and his cologne doing weird things to my concentration. I wanted someone who wouldn't let me settle, I said, and the truth of it surprised me. Someone who'd push back when I'm wrong and celebrate when I'm right. Someone who sees my work, not just my smile. I paused. Though for the record, he's terrible at celebrating. His idea of praise is, that's adequate. Lennox actually laughed. A real, genuine laugh that transformed his entire face. I said exemplary, and you know it. After I fixed your code mistake. It wasn't a mistake. It was a strategic choice. It would have crashed the entire user interface within 3 hours. Children, Vanessa interrupted, but she was smiling now. This is the most authentic couple interview I've done in 6 months. Everyone else sounds like they rehearsed with a PR team. If only she knew. We don't really do rehearsed, Lennox said, his eyes meeting mine with something that looked dangerously close to affection. Paige wouldn't let me get away with it anyway. Vanessa leaned forward. Let's talk about the professional dynamic. Paige, do you worry that being married to the CEO will affect your credibility at Hayes Technologies? And there it was, the question I'd been dreading. Every single day, I admitted. I worked incredibly hard to get where I am. The last thing I want is for people to think I'm succeeding because of my relationship status rather than my abilities. So, how do you handle it? I looked at Lennox. His expression was carefully neutral, but I could see the tension in his jaw. This was his company, his reputation too. I work twice as hard, I said. I document everything. I volunteer for the projects no one else wants. And when Lennox cancels my initiatives, I shot him a pointed look. I trust that he has a reason, even if I want to throw my laptop at his head. You canceled her project? Vanessa's pen practically flew across her notepad. Lennox's hand tightened on mine. I did. 3 competing firms are developing identical technology. Paige's prototype was excellent, exceptional even, but the market timing was wrong. I redirected her to something better, which is confidential, we said in unison. Vanessa laughed outright. You two are either the real deal or the best actors in Silicon Valley. If only she knew how much I wished it were the latter. Ms. Park, Lennox said, may I ask you something off the record? She considered this. Depends on the question. How many of the couples you interview actually seem happy? The room went quiet. Vanessa set down her pen and studied us both with those sharp, calculating eyes. Honestly, maybe 1 in 10. She paused. Most of them are together for optics or momentum, or because separating would tank their stock prices. They smile for the camera and sleep in separate bedrooms. Her gaze moved between us. You two, though? You argue like you mean it. That's either love or exceptional commitment to a very elaborate lie. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure everyone could hear it. It's love, Lennox said quietly, and the way he looked at me made my breath catch. The arguing is just how we communicate. I should have laughed, should have made a joke, should have done anything except stare at him like he'd just handed me the moon. Paige? Vanessa prompted. He's infuriating, I managed. Controlling, stubborn, thinks he's right about everything. I usually am right about everything, Lennox interjected. See what I mean? Impossible. I took a breath. But he's also brilliant and fair, and when he commits to something, he's all in. No half measures, no backing down. Even when the something is you, Vanessa asked. Especially when it's me, I said, and realized with a jolt that I meant it. Vanessa gathered her notes, a knowing smile playing at her lips. I think I have everything I need. The article will run next Wednesday. I'll send you both a preview by Monday. We shook hands, exchanged pleasantries, and then she was gone, leaving Lennox and me alone in the conference room that suddenly felt too small and too quiet. I pulled my hand away from his. The warmth disappeared immediately, leaving me colder than I expected. That went well. Lennox said, loosening his tie. You're a better liar than I thought. Something in my chest twisted. Right. Lying. That's what we were doing. He stood, gathering papers he didn't need, avoiding my eyes. The Forbes piece will be good for the company. And for you, once this is over and we divorce, having married the CEO on your professional narrative won't hurt your next career move. How practical, I said, hating how bitter I sounded. Everything calculated, even the fake marriage. Paige, I should get back to work. I have that confidential project to start, remember? I headed for the door, needing distance, needing air, needing to not be in a room where Lennox Hayes looked at me like I mattered and then reminded me it was all strategic planning. Paige, wait. I stopped, hand on the doorknob, but didn't turn around. That thing you said, about wanting someone who sees your work, not just your smile. His voice was closer now, right behind me. I meant what I said in Vegas. Drunk or sober, you're the best developer this company has ever had. That's not strategic. That's just true. I finally turned. He was standing there, hands in his pockets, looking uncertain in a way I'd never seen him look. Lennox Hayes, who commanded boardrooms and closed billion-dollar deals, looked like a guy who didn't know what to do with his hands. Why did you really marry me? I asked. And don't give me that talent retention speech. You could have just given me a raise. He was quiet for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, because for 2 years I've watched you walk into my office like you own it. You challenge me. You call me out. You make me want to be better at my job just to keep up with you. He met my eyes. And that night in Vegas, when you weren't my employee for once, when you were just Paige laughing at terrible Elvis impersonators and stealing my fries, I didn't want it to end. The air between us felt electric. So you made sure it couldn't, I said softly. By marrying me. By marrying you, he agreed. It was impulsive and manipulative and probably the worst professional decision I've ever made. Probably. Definitely. A ghost of a smile. But I'd do it again. Someone knocked on the conference room door. Janet poked her head in. Mr. Hayes, your 2 p.m. is here. The moment shattered like glass. Thank you, Janet. Lennox stepped back, and the CEO mask slipped back into place. Professional. Distant. Untouchable. I left without another word, my mind spinning, my heart doing things it absolutely should not be doing for my fake husband, who maybe, possibly, didn't think of this as entirely fake after all. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Unknown. This is Vanessa Park. Off the record. I've been doing this job for 15 years. You two have something real, whether you're ready to admit it or not. Don't waste it on pride or timing or whatever excuse you're both using. I stared at the message. Then I looked back at the conference room where Lennox was greeting his 2 p.m. with that perfect CEO smile that never quite reached his eyes. 2 weeks. We had 2 weeks of this fake marriage. I was starting to think 2 weeks might not be nearly enough time to figure out what was real and what was just really good acting. Or maybe it was too much time to keep pretending I didn't feel something that terrified and thrilled me in equal measure. The Hayes family estate looked like something out of a movie about old money and older scandals. Sweeping driveway, perfectly manicured gardens, a fountain that probably cost more than my car, and a front door that could double as a bank vault. Your family lives here? I asked as Lennox pulled his Tesla into the circular drive. Like, actually lives here? This isn't a museum? My mother would argue it's both. He turned off the engine but didn't move to get out. Listen, about tonight, let me guess. Your family is going to hate me, ask inappropriate questions about when we're having babies, and judge every word that comes out of my mouth? Actually, they're going to love you. That's the problem. He ran a hand through his hair, a nervous gesture I was starting to recognize. My mother has been trying to set me up with appropriate matches for the past 5 years. The fact that I chose someone myself, someone who actually works for the company, someone who challenges me intellectually, you're basically her dream daughter-in-law. Oh no. Oh yes. He finally looked at me. She's going to want this to be real, Paige. And when we divorce in 2 weeks, she's going to blame me. She's going to blame me, he corrected, for letting you get away. The front door opened before we could continue the conversation. A woman in her early 60s emerged, elegant in a way that suggested she'd never had an awkward day in her life. Silver hair perfectly styled, a cashmere sweater set that probably cost more than my monthly rent, and a smile that was genuinely warm. There you are. She practically floated down the steps. "Lennox, darling, you're late. And you must be Paige. Oh, let me look at you." Before I could react, I was enveloped in a hug that smelled like expensive perfume and genuine affection. "Mom, let her breathe," Lennox said, but he was smiling. "Nonsense, I've waited 34 years for Lennox to bring someone home. I'm entitled to a hug." She pulled back, hands on my shoulders, studying my face. "You're even prettier than the wedding photo. Those dreadful chapel lights did you no justice at all." "You saw the wedding photo?" I asked weakly. "Lennox sent it, at 3 in the morning with a text that said, 'I did something impulsive. I nearly had a heart attack.'" She linked her arm through mine, steering me toward the house. "I'm Catherine, by the way, though you should call me Mom, or Catherine if that's too much too soon. Whatever makes you comfortable, dear." I glanced back at Lennox, who was following with an expression that clearly said, "I warned you." The inside of the house was somehow even more intimidating. All dark wood, oil paintings, and furniture that looked like it belonged in Architectural Digest. But Catherine led me straight past all of it to a kitchen that was surprisingly cozy, where a man who was clearly Lennox's father stood at the stove. "Malcolm, put down that spatula and come meet your daughter-in-law." Malcolm Hayes turned, and I immediately saw where Lennox got his steel-gray eyes, but where Lennox's were often cold and calculating, his father's crinkled with warmth. "So you're the one who finally cracked the ice, King." He wiped his hands on a dish towel and shook mine firmly. "Welcome to the family, Paige. We've been taking bets on how long until Lennox admitted he was human. You've won me $50. Dad." "Oh, hush, Lennox. She should know what she's gotten into." Malcolm winked at me. "Fair warning. Sunday dinners are mandatory. Catherine will try to plan your entire life, including baby names, and I'll expect you at the company golf tournament in June." "I don't golf," I said. "Perfect. Neither do I. We'll drink scotch in the clubhouse and let the others exhaust themselves." A blur of motion preceded a small human launching herself at Lennox's legs. Uncle Len, you got married and didn't tell me." Lennox scooped up what appeared to be a 7-year-old girl with wild curly hair and a dress that had definitely seen better days. "Harper, this is Paige. Paige, this is my niece Harper. She's a nightmare." "I'm not a nightmare. I'm precocious." Harper turned her solemn gaze to me. "Aunt Paige, do you like dinosaurs?" Yes. "Do you know what a pachycephalosaurus is?" "A dinosaur with a really thick skull?" Harper's face lit up like Christmas morning. "Uncle Len, she's smart. You have to keep her." "That's the plan," Lennox said, and something in his voice made me look at him sharply. But he was already moving into the dining room, Harper chattering away in his arms about Cretaceous period herbivores. Catherine appeared at my elbow with a glass of wine. "You'll need this. Dinner at the Hayes house is an experience." She wasn't wrong. The table seated 12 but only held 7, Catherine and Malcolm at either end, Lennox and me on one side, and a woman who introduced herself as Lennox's sister Miranda, her husband Tyler, and Harper on the other. "So," Miranda said, loading her plate with roasted vegetables, "tell us the real story," because Lennox's version was suspiciously sparse on details. "We got drunk in Vegas," I said, deciding honesty was the only policy. "Really drunk, and apparently decided that getting married was a great idea at the time." "But you're staying married?" Miranda pressed. "It wasn't just a drunken mistake you're annulling?" I felt Lennox tense beside me. This was it, the moment we either committed to the lie or admitted the truth. "We're figuring it out," I said carefully. "It's complicated." "Marriage is always complicated," Malcolm said, raising his wine glass toward Catherine. "We've been figuring it out for 37 years. The difference is you two actually dated first," Miranda pointed out. "Lennox, you literally married a woman you'd never even kiss sober." The table went silent. "That's not entirely true," Lennox said quietly. "We'd been circling each other for 2 years. Vegas just accelerated the timeline." "Circling?" Catherine leaned forward, delighted. "Tell me everything." "There's nothing to tell, Mom. He used to watch her in meetings," Miranda said with a wicked grin. "I was there for the quarterly review last spring. Paige absolutely destroyed his argument about the user interface redesign, and I swear Lennox looked like he'd fallen in love right there in conference room B. I did not." "You totally did," Tyler added. "It was actually kind of adorable watching you try to argue back while clearly impressed." Lennox's neck was turning red. I'd never seen him flustered before, and it was doing dangerous things to my self-control. In Lennox's defense, I said, taking pity on him, I was right about that interface redesign. His version would have alienated half our user base. And what did he do after you eviscerated his proposal? Miranda asked. I remembered that day vividly. The way Lennox had stared at me across the conference table, everyone waiting for him to shut me down the way he did with everyone else who dared disagree. He said, "You're hired to head the redesign project," I admitted. "Effective immediately." "Because you were right," Lennox said. "I'm not too proud to recognize when someone's smarter than me." "That must happen a lot around Paige," Harper piped up, causing her mother to choke on her wine and Malcolm to bark out a laugh. The rest of dinner passed in a blur of stories, teasing, and warmth that felt dangerously like family. Malcolm told embarrassing childhood stories about Lennox's science fair disasters. Catherine showed me photo albums I absolutely did not need to see. Lennox with braces was both adorable and ammunition for later. Harper insisted on sitting on my lap and explaining her dinosaur book in excruciating detail. And Lennox? Lennox watched it all with an expression I couldn't quite read. After dinner, Catherine cornered me in the kitchen while I helped with dishes. "Can I ask you something, dear? Mother to daughter?" "Of course. Do you love him?" I froze, a wine glass halfway to the drying rack. Catherine continued gently, "I don't mean to pry. Well, I suppose I do mean to pry. That's what mothers do. But I've seen Lennox in love before, or what he thought was love. It always looked like a business arrangement, even when he was trying. And now he looks at you like you're the only person in the room. Like you're a puzzle he's desperate to solve but terrified to finish because then the game would be over." She handed me another glass to dry. "And you look at him the same way." "Catherine, I know about the prenup. I know about the 2-week timeline." She held up a hand at my shocked expression. "Malcolm handles all of Lennox's legal work. He doesn't gossip, but he does vent to me after particularly frustrating cases." "Then you know this isn't what? Real?" She smiled sadly. "My dear, I've been married for nearly 4 decades. I know what real looks like. And that boy in there who never brings anyone home, who works 80-hour weeks and sleeps in his office, he left work at 4 p.m. on a Sunday to bring you here. That's real. He had to. Sunday dinners are mandatory, you said. They're mandatory for him. You're not an employee anymore, Paige. You're family. You could have said no." I didn't have an answer for that. Catherine squeezed my hand. "Whatever you two are doing, whether it's a mistake or fate or something in between, just don't waste it on pride. Life's too short and love is too rare." We found Lennox in the library, Harper asleep against his shoulder, dinosaur book open on his lap. "She insisted I read to her," he whispered. I made it through 3 pages before she was out. I helped him shift Harper to the couch, covering her with a throw blanket. The sight of Lennox being gentle with his niece did something complicated to my heart. "Your family is wonderful," I said as we headed toward the front door. "Your mom tried to adopt me. Your dad offered me a standing Scotch date, and Harper proposed a joint dinosaur museum expedition. And Miranda asked if I was sure I knew what I was getting into marrying you." "What did you tell her?" We'd reached his car. The night was clear, stars visible despite the city lights in the distance. "I told her I had no idea what I was getting into," I said honestly, "but I was figuring it out as I went." Lennox opened my car door but didn't step back. We were close enough that I could see the pulse in his neck, smell his cologne, feel the warmth radiating off him. "Paige, your mom knows about the prenup, the 2 weeks. He went very still. "Did she say anything?" "She said," I took a breath. "She said you look at me like I'm a puzzle you're desperate to solve. She's not wrong." His voice was rough. "You are a puzzle, Paige Sutton. The smartest, most frustrating, most fascinating puzzle I've ever encountered." "Is that what this is? An intellectual challenge?" "No." He reached up, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear, his fingers lingering against my cheek. "This is me being terrified that I've made the most impulsive decision of my life, and somehow it's also the most right thing I've ever done." The space between us felt charged, electric, impossible. "Lennox," his phone buzzed. Then mine, then both simultaneously with increasing urgency. He pulled back, checking the screen. "It's the office. Server breach. Someone's trying to hack the new project files." Just like that, the moment shattered. We were back to CEO and employee, crisis mode engaged, personal feelings shelved. But as we drove back to the city in charged silence, his words echoed in my mind. The most right thing I've ever done. And I couldn't help wondering, if this fake marriage felt this real, what would happen when we had to make it fake again? The Hayes Technologies building looked different at midnight. Less imposing skyscraper, more fortress under siege. Half the lights on the 42nd floor were blazing as we stepped off the elevator into controlled chaos. "Status!" Lennox barked at Jeremy, our head of security, who looked like he'd aged 5 years in the past hour. "Someone's probing the firewall on the new project servers. Sophisticated attack. They're using rotating IP addresses, exploiting a zero-day vulnerability we didn't even know existed." Jeremy pulled up code on his tablet. "We've isolated the affected systems, but if they get through, they won't." I was already heading toward my workstation, pulling up my laptop. "That's my code they're trying to crack. I built in redundancies they won't see coming." Lennox followed me, shrugging off his jacket. "What do you need?" "Coffee, silence, and everyone to stop panicking." I started typing, my fingers flying across the keyboard. "Jeremy, I need full access logs from the past 72 hours. Someone had to do reconnaissance before launching this attack." The next 3 hours blurred into a caffeine-fueled marathon of code, curses, and collaborative problem-solving that reminded me why I loved this job. Lennox worked beside me, not hovering or micromanaging, but actually helping, his business strategy brain complementing my technical expertise perfectly. "There," I said finally, pointing at a pattern in the access logs. "See that? Someone's been mapping our security protocols for weeks. Small queries spread out, nothing that would trigger alerts individually, but collectively they're building a blueprint." Lennox leaned closer, studying the screen. "Can you trace it?" "Already on it." My fingers danced across the keyboard. Routing through. Singapore, Moscow, back to... Wait. I froze. "That's an internal IP address." The room went silent. "Someone inside Hayes Technologies is feeding information to external attackers," Jeremy said, his voice tight. Lennox's expression went ice cold. "Who has access to those servers?" 15 people, I said, pulling up the employee list, including me, you, Jeremy, and the entire senior development team. "It's not you," Lennox said immediately. "How do you know?" "Because you literally just saved the entire system. If you were the mole, that would be spectacularly stupid." He studied the list. "But someone on this list has been planning this for weeks." My phone buzzed. "Unknown number again, unknown. The attack was a test. They're coming back harder. You have 48 hours to find the leak or everything you've built goes public. Good luck, Mrs. Hayes." I showed Lennox the message. "Vanessa Park? How would she know about this?" He was already dialing, unless she's investigating more than just our marriage," I finished. "She's a tech journalist. If there's a corporate espionage story at Hayes Technologies, that's her beat." Lennox's call went to voicemail. He left a terse message requesting an urgent callback, then turned to the room. "Everyone, listen up. As of now, this project is on complete lockdown. No one accesses these servers without my personal authorization. Jeremy, I want security footage from every entry point for the past month. And someone get me." "Your general counsel?" A new voice interrupted. A woman in her 50s strode in, looking far too put together for 3 a.m., carrying a briefcase and an expression that meant business. "Already here. Malcolm called me the second the breach alert went out." "Diane, thank goodness." Lennox actually looked relieved. "This is Paige, my wife." "Yes, I heard. Congratulations on the impulsive life choices." Diane shook my hand firmly. "Diane Mitchell, General Counsel. We'll deal with the personal disaster later. Right now, let's focus on the corporate one." I decided I liked her immediately. Diane set up in the conference room, organizing our response with military precision. By 4 a.m., we had a plan: maintain the lockdown, track the internal leak, and prepare for the inevitable second attack that Vanessa had warned about. By 5 a.m., most of the team had been sent home. Only Lennox, Diane, Jeremy, and I remained, running on fumes and determination. "You should go home," Lennox said, finding me still at my workstation at 5:30. The sky beginning to lighten outside the floor-to-ceiling windows. "So should you. I own the company. I'm allowed to sleep here. You own a company that's under attack because someone you trusted betrayed you. You're allowed to feel something about that besides strategic concern. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled up a chair beside me, close enough that our shoulders touched. You want to know the worst part? He said quietly. It's probably someone I've worked with for years. Someone I've trusted. Someone who sat in meetings and smiled and plotted to destroy everything we've built. He rubbed his face. How did I miss it? Because you're human, Lennox. You're allowed to trust people. Trust is a liability in business. That's the saddest thing I've ever heard. He looked at me then, really looked, and I saw exhaustion and vulnerability, and something that looked like loneliness. Is that why you married me drunk in Vegas? I asked softly. Because I'm the only person who doesn't want something from you? I married you in Vegas because you were the first person in 2 years who looked at me and saw Lennox instead of the CEO. He stood abruptly, pacing to the windows. Do you know what it's like? Everyone wanting something, approval, promotion, investment, access. Every conversation is a transaction. Every smile has an agenda. Except mine? Except yours. He turned back. You argue with me. You call me out when I'm wrong. You don't laugh at my jokes just because I'm the boss. You actually tell me when they're not funny. To be fair, most of them aren't funny. See? That. A ghost of a smile. Everyone else would have laughed politely. I stood, crossing to where he stood, silhouetted against the dawn. For what it's worth, I don't think you missed the signs. I think someone got very good at hiding them. That's not your failure. It's theirs. Paige. And for the record, I interrupted. When I look at you, I see both. The CEO who's brilliant and driven and sometimes infuriating, and Lennox who remembers coffee stains from 2 years ago and reads dinosaur books to his niece and makes terrible jokes that he thinks are hilarious. They are hilarious. They're really not. We were standing too close again. This kept happening. Gravity pulling us together despite every logical reason to maintain distance. We should talk about what happened at my parents' house, Lennox said. Before the crisis. You mean when you almost kissed me? I wasn't. He stopped. Was I? You were definitely thinking about it. Maybe I was. His hand came up, fingers brushing my cheek like they had before. Maybe I've been thinking about it since Vegas. Since before Vegas, if I'm being honest. My heart was doing gymnastics in my chest. Lennox, we can't. Why not? Because this is fake. We have a prenup, a timeline, an exit strategy. What if I don't want an exit strategy anymore? The words hung between us, impossible and terrifying, and exactly what I'd been afraid he'd say. You don't mean that, I whispered. You're exhausted and stressed and completely aware of what I'm saying. He stepped closer. 2 weeks seemed reasonable when I thought I could keep this professional. When I thought I could keep you at arm's length and we'd both walk away unscathed. His laugh was bitter. Turns out I'm not that good at self-control. Lennox, tell me you don't feel it too. Tell me I'm imagining this thing between us, and I'll back off. We'll run out the 2 weeks, sign the papers, and pretend Vegas never happened. I should have said it. Should have lied and created distance and protected both of us from the inevitable disaster of mixing business with feelings. Instead, I said, I can't tell you that. His eyes darkened. Paige, but I also can't do this, I continued, forcing myself to step back. We work together. You're my boss. There's a corporate crisis happening, and in less than 2 weeks we're supposed to divorce and go back to being professional colleagues. How exactly does that work if we what? Admit this is real? It's not real. It's Vegas and tequila and a marriage certificate that shouldn't exist. Then why does it feel more real than anything else in my life? I didn't have an answer for that. Diane chose that moment to return, coffee tray in hand, and stopped short at whatever expression she saw on our faces. Am I interrupting? No, I said quickly. Yes, Lennox said at the same time. Diane set down the coffee with a knowing look. Well, whenever you two finish interrupting each other, we have a problem. Vanessa Park just published an article, not the Forbes piece, a different one. You're going to want to see this. She pulled up her tablet. The headline made my blood run cold. Hayes Technologies under siege, corporate espionage, shotgun weddings, and Silicon Valley's worst-kept secrets. She knows everything, Diane said grimly. The breach, the internal investigation, and your unconventional marriage timeline. This goes live in 30 minutes unless you give her an exclusive interview. Lennox and I looked at each other. Blackmail, he said. Journalism. Diane corrected. She's offering you a chance to control the narrative before she controls it for you. My phone buzzed. Vanessa Park. Vanessa, conference room B, 6 a.m. Bring coffee and honesty. I can smell lies a mile away. And Paige? The security footage from Vegas is very interesting. See you soon, V. What security footage? I asked weakly. Lennox had gone pale. The chapel had cameras. Obviously, the chapel had cameras. No, I mean high-definition cameras that I may have requested copies from. He wouldn't meet my eyes. For legal documentation purposes. You what? In my defense, I was trying to protect both of us legally. By recording our drunken wedding without telling me? It wasn't drunken on my part. I told you. I was drinking water. Oh, so you soberly decided to marry your drunk employee and film it? That's so much better. Diane held up a hand. Children, focus. Vanessa Park has footage of your wedding, knows about the corporate espionage, and has you both over a barrel. What's the play? Lennox looked at me. I looked at him. We tell the truth, I said. Which truth? Lennox asked quietly. The one where this was a calculated business move? Or the one where I've been half in love with you since you yelled at me about user interfaces? Diane's eyebrows shot up. Oh, this is better than I thought. Not helping, Diane, Lennox muttered. Actually, I think I am. She smiled. You have 25 minutes to decide what story you're telling. To Vanessa Park and to yourselves. I suggest you use them wisely. She left, closing the door behind her. Lennox and I stood in the growing dawn light, exhausted and emotional, and facing a reporter who apparently had receipts for every complicated feeling we'd been dancing around for weeks. So, I said finally, what's our story? Lennox looked at me with an expression that was equal parts terrified and determined. I don't know, he admitted, but I think it's time we figured it out. 24 minutes until Vanessa Park. 24 minutes to decide if we were ending this marriage or fighting for it. The sun was rising over San Francisco, and I had absolutely no idea which way this was about to go. Vanessa Park sat in conference room B like she owned it, laptop open, recorder on the table, and an expression that suggested she'd already written the story 3 different ways and was just deciding which version would cause the most chaos. You're 2 minutes late, she said as Lennox and I entered. I was starting to think you'd fled the country. Tempting, but impractical. Lennox set down a coffee tray, 3 cups, all black, because apparently he'd memorized Vanessa's preferences too. You wanted honesty. Here we are. Are you? Vanessa studied us both, because the Paige and Lennox who showed up to my first interview were performing a very convincing romance. But the 2 people who just walked in look like they've been through a war. We have, I said, sinking into a chair. Just not the one you think. Enlighten me. I looked at Lennox. He looked at me. In that moment, exhausted and terrified and facing a journalist who could destroy everything, something crystallized between us. We were done lying. To Vanessa. To ourselves. To each other. The marriage was real, Lennox said. Vegas, chapel, Elvis impersonator, all real. The drunken part was also real, though I was significantly more sober than Paige. Hey, you literally proposed using contract law metaphors. You were very drunk. Vanessa's pen flew across her notepad. But the marriage itself wasn't planned. No, I said. It was impulsive and reckless and possibly the worst professional decision either of us has ever made. And yet you're still married? We had a prenup, Lennox explained. 2-week timeline, then mutual divorce, clean, simple, no complications. Except nothing is clean or simple when you accidentally marry someone you've been halfway in love with for 2 years and were too stubborn to admit it, I said, and felt Lennox's sharp inhale beside me. Vanessa leaned back, a slow smile spreading. Now we're getting somewhere. Tell me about the 2 years. So we did. We told her about the interface redesign argument that started everything, about how Lennox promoted me instead of firing me for insubordination. About 2 years of professional tension that everyone in the office could feel but nobody acknowledged. We worked well together, Lennox said. Too well. It was easier to keep things professional than to risk complicating it. And Vegas changed that? Vegas removed the professional filters, I admitted. For one night, we weren't CEO and employee. We were just 2 people who liked arguing with each other and apparently thought lifetime contracts were romantic. Are they? Vanessa asked. Romantic? I looked at Lennox. He was watching me with an intensity that made my breath catch. "Ask me again in 2 weeks," I said softly. Vanessa made a note. "Let's talk about the corporate espionage. Someone inside Hayes Technologies is leaking information to competitors. How does that connect to your marriage?" "It doesn't," Lennox said sharply. "That's a separate crisis." "Is it?" "Because my sources say the breach attempt started escalating right after your Vegas wedding. Almost like someone was testing your security while you were distracted." I felt cold. "You think someone used our marriage as cover?" "I think someone saw an opportunity. CEO gets married in a whirlwind romance, brings his new wife into the family business. Everyone's focused on the personal drama instead of watching the corporate back doors." Vanessa pulled up her laptop. "Want to know what else is interesting? The IP address attempting the breach. It's been accessing your personal emails page. Someone's very interested in your relationship with Lennox." The room went silent. "Show me," I said. Vanessa turned the screen. There it was, my email account accessed from an internal IP during hours I wasn't in the office. Someone had been reading my personal correspondence for weeks. "They were looking for leverage," Lennox said, his voice dangerous. "Proof that our marriage was fake, something they could use to discredit us or the company. Or they were looking for proof it was real." Vanessa interrupted. "Think about it. If Hayes Technologies' CEO enters a legitimate marriage that affects company decisions, stock prices, investor confidence, that's valuable information. But if it's a sham marriage, that's a scandal that could tank your credibility and stock value. So someone's been spying on us to figure out which version of the story to sell," I said slowly, "or which version to weaponize." Vanessa closed her laptop. "Here's what I know for certain. You two have real chemistry. Your marriage certificate is legal. Your prenup is real. And someone inside your company is very invested in destroying one or both of you." "What are you going to publish?" Lennox asked. "That depends. What do you want me to publish?" It was a test. We both knew it. "The truth," I said. "Whatever that is." Vanessa smiled. "Brave answer, but which truth? The one where you're star-crossed co-workers who made a drunken mistake? Or the one where you're actually falling for each other and terrified to admit it?" "Can't it be both?" I asked. "In my experience, yes, usually is." She stood, gathering her things. "I'm going to tell you what I see, and you can decide if I'm right. You two are brilliant at your jobs, Lennox at strategy, Paige at execution. You challenge each other, respect each other, and probably drive each other crazy on a daily basis. The marriage was impulsive, yes, but it was also inevitable. You were always going to end up here. You just took the express route via Nevada." She paused at the door. "The corporate espionage story goes live in 6 hours. I'm keeping your marriage out of it for now, but I need a statement about your relationship status. Are you staying married or getting divorced?" Lennox looked at me. I looked at him. "We don't know yet," I admitted. "Fair enough. Figure it out fast. My editor wants a romance angle for the weekend piece." She checked her watch. "You have until 5 p.m. to decide if you're Silicon Valley's most dysfunctional power couple or its most functional disaster. Choose wisely." The door closed behind her. Lennox and I sat in the empty conference room as the sun climbed higher over the city, painting everything in gold and possibility. "Well," he said finally, "that was terrifying." "Which part? The corporate espionage, the email hacking, or the relationship questions?" "Yes." I laughed despite everything. "We're a mess, Lennox Hayes." "Spectacularly so." He turned to face me fully. "But Vanessa wasn't wrong. About the inevitable part. You think this was always going to happen? I think," he paused, choosing his words carefully, "that I've been fighting this for 2 years. Telling myself it was inappropriate, unprofessional, complicated. That you deserved someone who wasn't your boss. Someone who didn't come with family expectations and corporate baggage and a tendency to work 80-hour weeks. And now I'm wondering if I was fighting the wrong battle." He reached across the table, his hand covering mine. "I don't want to divorce you in 2 weeks, Paige. I don't want to sign papers and pretend Vegas never happened and go back to being just colleagues who argue in meetings." My heart was pounding so hard I could barely hear over it. "What do you want?" "I want to figure this out. Not in 2 weeks or on some predetermined timeline, but for real. I want Sunday dinners with my family where you're not pretending to be my wife. You just are. I want to argue about code and user interfaces and whether my jokes are funny. They're still not funny, and I want to do it without an expiration date hanging over us. His thumb traced circles on my hand. But I need to know if you want that too. Because if this is just a fun detour from your real life, if you're counting down to the divorce so you can move on, then tell me now. I can handle rejection. What I can't handle is hope. I looked at our joined hands. At the man who'd married me drunk in Vegas and read dinosaur books to his niece, and worked beside me through a corporate crisis without once pulling rank. I'm terrified, I admitted. This started as a mistake. A drunken, impulsive mistake with a prenup and an exit strategy. And now it's something else. Something that feels real and scary and like it could hurt so much worse than any professional failure. Is that a yes or a no? It's a I don't know how to do this. I met his eyes. I don't know how to be married to my boss. I don't know how to separate work from personal when they're this tangled up. I don't know how to trust that this isn't just crisis bonding or proximity or really good acting. Neither do I, Lennox said. But I know I want to try. Even if we crash and burn, even if we crash spectacularly and become a cautionary tale about workplace relationships, I should have said no. Should have chosen the safe option, the professional distance, the clean divorce in 2 weeks. Instead, I said, okay, we try. We figure this out. I took a breath. We stay married and see what happens when the crisis is over, and the adrenaline fades and we're just two people who got married in Vegas and maybe, possibly, actually like each other. Lennox's smile was brilliant and genuine and completely devastating. Just to be clear, you like me? Present tense. Don't push it, Hayes. But you just agreed to stay married to me. I'm regretting it already. Liar. He stood, pulling me up with him. You're terrible at lying, Paige. It's one of my favorite things about you. We were close again. Always too close, gravity pulling us together like it had been since Vegas. We should set ground rules, I said, trying to think past the way he was looking at me. Boundaries, professional protocols. Later, Lennox murmured. Right now, I want to do something I should have done when I was sober in Vegas. Which is, kiss my wife properly. He gave me 3 full seconds to object, to pull away, to choose the professional distance we'd maintained for 2 years. I closed the distance instead. The kiss was nothing like I'd imagined, and I'd imagined it more than I wanted to admit. It wasn't smooth or practiced or perfect. It was messy and desperate and tasted like coffee and exhaustion, and 2 years of unresolved tension finally breaking free. His hands cupped my face like I was something precious. My fingers tangled in his hair. The conference room, the crisis, the watching eyes of Hayes Technologies, all of it faded until there was just this. Lennox and Paige, married and terrified and kissing like the world might end if they stopped. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine. Still regretting it, he asked. Ask me again after we survive the next crisis. Which crisis? The corporate espionage, the media scrutiny, or figuring out how to tell HR that we're actually staying married? All of the above? Challenge accepted. My phone buzzed. Then his. Simultaneous messages from Diane. Diane, I don't care what you two are doing in conference room B, but security footage shows you've been in there for an hour. Either you're planning world domination or making out. Either way, Jeremy found something. Conference room A. Now. We looked at each other. World domination or making out? Lennox asked. Definitely both. That's my wife. He grabbed my hand, heading for the door. Let's go catch a corporate spy and figure out how to explain our new relationship status to the entire company. Is this what marriage is always like? I have no idea, but I'm looking forward to finding out. We burst into conference room A to find Jeremy surrounded by monitors, Diane on her phone, presumably with lawyers, and evidence spread across the table. We found the mole, Jeremy said without preamble. And you're not going to like it. On the screen was security footage from 3 weeks ago, the night before Vegas. 2 people in the parking garage, exchanging what looked like data drives. One of them was from our senior development team. The other was someone I'd trusted completely. Someone who'd been at Sunday dinner just yesterday. No, I breathed. That's not possible. But the footage didn't lie. And suddenly everything got infinitely more complicated. The person in the security footage was Miranda's husband, Tyler. No, Lennox said flatly. Absolutely not. Tyler's been family for 8 years. He was in my wedding party when I married. He stopped, realizing the irony. He wouldn't do this. The footage doesn't lie, Jeremy said grimly, pulling up more clips. Here he is accessing restricted servers. Here's him meeting with Marcus Chen from our development team. That's the internal contact. And here, he pulled up financial records, is a payment of $50,000 to his personal account from a shell corporation registered in the Cayman Islands. I felt sick. Tyler had sat across from us at dinner. Harper had climbed on his lap. Catherine had served him her famous pot roast. Why? I asked. He's married to Miranda. He's part of the family. What could possibly be worth? Debt, Diane said, ending her phone call. Gambling debt, specifically. Tyler's been hemorrhaging money at underground poker games for the past 18 months. He's in deep to some very unpleasant people. Like break your kneecaps unpleasant. Lennox looked like he'd been punched. Miranda doesn't know. Miranda doesn't know, Diane confirmed. He's been hiding it. The Shell Corporation payment, that was his first installment. He was supposed to deliver your new project specs this week for another $100,000. The people he owes aren't the patient type. They've been applying pressure, making threats. So he sold us out to pay gambling debts. Lennox's voice was ice. And put my entire company at risk. Put Paige's work. His hand found mine, gripping tight. We trusted him. There's more, Jeremy said quietly. The emails accessing Paige's account? Tyler was looking for proof your marriage was fake. If he could prove it was a sham, his contacts were prepared to leak it to the press, tank your stock price, and create chaos while they extracted more proprietary information. He was going to destroy us, I said numbly, personally and professionally. He was desperate, Diane said. Desperate people make catastrophic choices. Lennox stood abruptly, pacing to the windows. The morning sun was fully up now, painting the city in harsh, unforgiving light. What do we do? We have two options, Diane said. One, we call the police right now, have Tyler arrested for corporate espionage, and let the courts handle it. Very public, very messy. We'll definitely hit the news cycle. He'll likely go to prison. Hayes Technologies gets justice, but Miranda and Harper become collateral damage. And option two, we handle it privately, confront Tyler, get him to cooperate with identifying his contacts and make restitution. He signs away any rights to Hayes Technologies information, agrees to counseling and debt management, repays what he can, and we keep Miranda and Harper out of the headlines. He still faces consequences, just not prison. That's not justice, Jeremy protested. He betrayed the company. He put everyone at risk. He betrayed family, Lennox interrupted, turning back to us. Which is worse? He looked at me. What do you think? It still surprised me when he asked my opinion on things like this. Decisions that affected the whole company, not just code and development. But that was Lennox. He'd been asking my opinion more and more, treating me like a true partner. I think, I said carefully, that Harper is 7 years old and doesn't deserve to see her father arrested on the news. I think Miranda is your sister and she's going to be devastated either way. And I think Tyler made terrible choices, but he's not a career criminal. He's a desperate man who made catastrophically bad decisions trying to solve a problem he was too proud to ask for help with. So, option two, Lennox said. With strict conditions, I added. He cooperates fully, names every contact, every payment, every piece of information he sold. He provides documentation we can use to protect the company. He gets professional help for the gambling addiction. Real help, not just promises. He repays what he can through a structured plan. And he never ever comes near Hayes Technologies again. He doesn't get to work in tech, period. We make sure of that. And if he refuses any of these terms, we go to the police, Lennox added. No negotiation. Diane nodded approvingly. I can draft the agreement, but we need to move fast. His contacts will know something's wrong when he doesn't deliver this week. Do it, Lennox said. And someone call my sister. She needs to hear this from me before Tyler tries to spin his own version, or before it leaks some other way. The next hour was brutal preparation. Diane drafted legal documents with terrifying efficiency. Jeremy compiled evidence into an airtight case. I contacted our cybersecurity team to implement new protocols and lock down everything Tyler had accessed. And Lennox made the hardest phone call of his life. Miranda, he said when she answered, his voice carefully controlled. I need you to come to the office right now. It's about Tyler. I could hear her panic through the phone. Is he hurt? Was there an accident? He's not hurt, but it's serious. Family serious. Can you leave Harper with Mom and come in? You're scaring me, Len. I know, I'm sorry, but I need you here, please. She arrived 45 minutes later looking terrified, still in yoga pants and an oversized sweater, her hair pulled into a messy ponytail. She practically ran into the conference room. What happened? Where's Tyler? Is he? Sit down, Mir, Lennox said gently, guiding her to a chair. I'd never seen him like this. So careful, so tender with his little sister who looked up at him with complete trust. You're scaring me, she repeated. I know. I'm sorry. He pulled up a chair across from her, took her hands. What I'm about to tell you is going to be hard to hear. I need you to listen all the way through before you react, okay? Lennox, you're making it worse. Tyler's been selling Hayes Technologies information to our competitors. The words landed like bombs. Miranda stared at him, not comprehending. What? No, that's... Tyler wouldn't. He doesn't even work in tech. He's in real estate. He doesn't have access to... Lennox nodded to Jeremy, who pulled up the security footage. We watched Miranda's face as she saw her husband, the father of her child, her partner of 8 years, exchanging data with Marcus Chen. Saw him accessing servers he shouldn't have been near. Saw the evidence pile up, undeniable and devastating. No, she whispered, then louder. No, there has to be an explanation. Maybe he was helping with something. Maybe Marcus asked him to. He's been gambling, Miranda, Lennox said gently. Underground poker games. He's in debt to some dangerous people for over $200,000. Her face went white. 200? No, we have savings. We have Harper's college fund. If he needed money, he would have. The savings are gone, Diane said quietly. Harper's college fund is gone. He's been bleeding your accounts dry for 18 months trying to cover his losses. I watched Miranda break. It was like watching a building collapse in slow motion. First the shock, then the denial crumbling, then the full weight of reality crushing down. Harper's college fund? Her voice cracked. I've been contributing to that every month. I check the balance, it's all there. He's been manipulating the statements you see, Jeremy explained, showing you false balances while withdrawing the actual money. Miranda put her head in her hands. Her shoulders shook. Lennox moved to her side, pulling her against him. I'm so sorry, Mir. I'm so sorry. How long have you known? She asked through tears. We found out this morning. I called you immediately. Does he know? That you know? Not yet. We wanted you here first. She pulled back, wiping her face. I want to talk to him. I want to hear him explain this to my face. Miranda, I deserve that much, Lennox. 8 years, a daughter, a life together. I deserve to hear him admit what he's done. Lennox looked at Diane, who nodded. We can arrange that. In fact, it might help. We need his full cooperation anyway. Tyler arrived an hour later with 2 lawyers called in by Diane under the pretense of a legal consultation regarding Hayes Technologies' business. He walked in expecting corporate formalities and found his wife, his brother-in-law, and a conference room full of evidence. Miranda, what are you doing here? Then, seeing her face, what's wrong? You tell me, she said, her voice cold. What's wrong, Tyler? He looked around the room and I saw the exact moment he realized he was trapped. His shoulders sagged. His expensive lawyers straightened, already calculating their defense strategy. Before your lawyers start talking, Diane said crisply, you should know we have video evidence, financial records, communication logs, and testimony from Marcus Chen, who's currently cooperating with our investigation. We have enough to send you to prison for corporate espionage, fraud, and breach of contract. The only question is whether we go to the police now, or give you a chance to explain yourself to your wife. Tyler's lawyers started to object, but he held up a hand. Can I talk to Miranda alone? Absolutely not, Lennox said immediately. It's okay, Miranda said quietly. I want to hear it. Miranda, Lennox, he's my husband. I deserve to hear the truth directly from him, not through lawyers and legal documents. She looked at Tyler. Don't I at least deserve that? The room cleared reluctantly, everyone moving to an adjacent conference room where we could see them through the glass partition but not hear. Diane posted security at the door, just in case. We watched as Tyler and Miranda talked, watched her cry, watched him put his head in his hands, watched what looked like a marriage ending in real time. "This is awful," I muttered. "It's necessary," Lennox said, but his jaw was tight. She needs to hear it from him, needs to decide what she wants to do with the information. 20 minutes later, Miranda opened the door. Her eyes were red, but her expression was steely. "He'll cooperate," she said. "Full disclosure, all contacts, all evidence. He'll sign whatever agreements you need. He'll get help for the gambling addiction. And he'll do it because I told him if he doesn't, I'll take Harper and he'll never see either of us again." Tyler emerged behind her, looking broken. "I'll do whatever you need, I need help, professional help, and I need to try to make this right." The next 2 hours were exhaustive. Tyler, under the supervision of his lawyers and Diane's relentless questioning, laid out everything, every contact, every transaction, every piece of information he'd sold. He named the underground poker organizers who'd threatened him. He provided access to bank accounts and communications. Marcus Chen was brought in separately, already resigned to his fate. He'd been feeding Tyler information for smaller payouts, not realizing the scope of the operation. By noon, we had a complete picture of the breach and a plan to contain it. By 2 p.m., Tyler had signed agreements that banned him from the tech industry, required structured debt repayment, mandated counseling, and gave Hayes Technologies full legal protection. By 3 p.m., Miranda and Tyler were leaving separately, her to collect Harper from Catherine's house, him to start making arrangements to move out of their home. Lennox walked his sister to her car. "I'm here," he said simply. "Whatever you need. You and Harper always have a place with us." "Us?" Miranda managed a watery smile. "You and Paige?" "Me and Paige. She's good for you, you know." The way she looked at Tyler during all that, like she wanted to defend me and punch him simultaneously. "That's family." Miranda hugged him tight. "I'm sorry he did this to your company. I'm sorry he did this to you." "Yeah, me too." After she left, Lennox came back to find me in his office, staring out at the city. "How are you holding up?" I asked. "I've been better." He collapsed into his desk chair. "I keep thinking, what if we hadn't caught him? What if he delivered the final specs? What if... But we did catch him, and we contained it, and now we move forward. Just like that? Not just like that. We implement new security. We audit everyone with server access. We rebuild trust. We do all the hard work that comes after crisis." I moved to his side. "But we do it. Together." He pulled me onto his lap, burying his face against my shoulder. "Have I mentioned you're the best thing that's ever happened to me? Not in the last 3 hours. Terrible oversight on my part." We sat like that for a long moment, just breathing, just being. "We still need to give Vanessa a statement," I said finally. "Can we just tell her everything exploded and we need a vacation?" "Somehow I don't think that'll satisfy her." His phone buzzed. Then mine. Simultaneous messages from Vanessa Park. "Vanessa, I know about Tyler. I know about the gambling debts. I know you handled it privately. I also know your deadline was 5 p.m. today for the marriage statement. Still want to tell me you're getting divorced?" V. We looked at each other. "She knows everything," I said. "She's terrifying. Should we be concerned that she has better intelligence than our security team?" "Deeply concerned. Also impressed." He pulled out his laptop. "Let's write this statement together." We sat side by side, trading the laptop back and forth, arguing about word choice and tone the way we'd argued about code for 2 years. But this felt different. This felt like partnership. After an hour of debate and several false starts, we had something that felt honest and right. 3 weeks ago, Paige Sutton and Lennox Hayes got married in Las Vegas, in what started as an impulsive decision fueled by tequila and questionable judgment. Yes, there was a prenup. Yes, there was a 2-week expiration date. And yes, we've decided to ignore all of that and stay married anyway. Why? Because somewhere between the Vegas chapel and the corporate crisis, and the family dinners and the late-night code reviews, we realized we work. Not despite our differences, but because of them. We challenge each other. We make each other better. We drive each other absolutely crazy in the best possible way. We're figuring out how to be partners in business and in life. It's complicated, messy, and probably inadvisable from every corporate governance perspective imaginable. We're doing it anyway. As for Hayes Technologies, the recent security breach has been contained, the responsible parties identified and dealt with appropriately, and new protocols have been implemented. The company remains strong, our projects remain secure, and we're moving forward. To our employees, your jobs are safe, your work is valued, and we're committed to maintaining the integrity of this company. To our investors, we've never been more secure. To our competitors, nice try. We ask for privacy as we navigate this unconventional situation. And to future tech professionals, maybe don't make major life decisions in Vegas. Or do. We're not in a position to judge. Also, for the record, Lennox's jokes still aren't funny. They really aren't. Paige, they're hilarious, and she knows it. Lennox, see, this is what we've signed up for. Both of us. We sent it to Vanessa, who called immediately. Hayes, she said. Plural? You're using Hayes as a shared last name? You're actually seriously doing this? We're actually seriously doing this, I confirmed. Well then, congratulations, you crazy kids. Try not to blow up any more companies while figuring out marriage. No promises, Lennox said. Can I ask you something off the record? Vanessa's tone shifted, became more personal. Sure, I said. Do you think it'll last? The marriage, I mean? Or is this just crisis bonding that'll fade when things calm down? I looked at Lennox, who was watching me with that expression that still made my breath catch, like I was a puzzle worth solving, a challenge worth taking. Ask me again in a year, I said, or 10 years, or 50. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have. But I can tell you this, we're committed to figuring it out. That has to count for something. After we hung up, Lennox turned to me. 50 years? Too ambitious? Not ambitious enough. He stood, pulling me up with him. Come on, we're leaving. Leaving? Lennox, we have crisis management too. Can wait until tomorrow. Right now I'm taking my wife home. Your apartment or mine? That's actually what we need to talk about. We ended up at his place, which was absurdly nice for someone who claimed to sleep at the office most nights. Floor-to-ceiling windows, modern furniture that actually looked comfortable, and a kitchen that clearly was designed by someone who never cooked. So, he said, opening a bottle of wine, I have a proposal. We're already married. You can't propose again. Not that kind of proposal. A practical one. He handed me a glass. Move in with me. That's not a proposal, that's a command. Move in with me, please. Better, but why? Because we're married, because separate apartments is inefficient, because I want to wake up next to you and argue about coffee preferences and trip over your shoes in the hallway. I don't leave shoes in the hallway. You will. I've seen your organizational system. It's chaotic at best. Your organizational system is psychotic. Everything has a label. Your spices are alphabetized. See? We balance each other out. He set down his wine glass, taking my hands. Move in with me, Paige. Not because it's practical or efficient, though it is both, but because I want you here. Because every morning I want to see you steal the coffee I made for myself. Because every night I want to argue about whose turn it is to pick dinner. Because every moment in between, I want us to figure this out together. That was almost romantic. Almost. The part about me stealing your coffee kind of undercut the mood. You do steal my coffee. I really do, I admitted. Okay. Okay? Okay, I'll move in on one condition. Name it. We get a bigger bed. Yours is designed for someone who sleeps alone and never moves. I need starfish space. You can have an entire wing if you want. Just say yes. I already said okay. Say yes anyway. Yes, Lennox Hayes. I'll move into your absurdly nice apartment and steal your coffee and take up most of the closet space and probably drive you crazy within a week. You already drive me crazy. That's why I married you. He kissed me then, soft and sweet and certain, and I thought about how 3 weeks ago I'd been trying to quit this job, escape this man, start over somewhere new. 3 weeks ago I'd had no idea that the worst professional decision I'd ever make would turn into the best personal decision of my life. The Forbes article went live that night. Within an hour, we were trending on tech news sites. Some called us romantic. Some called us reckless. Some started betting pools on how long until we got divorced. We ignored all of it. The corporate espionage story broke the next morning with Tyler's identity carefully omitted, though industry insiders figured it out within hours. Hayes Technologies stock took a small hit, then recovered as investors realized how quickly and efficiently we'd contained the breach. Marcus Chen was fired. 3 other employees with suspicious access patterns were put on administrative leave pending investigation, and slowly, carefully, Hayes Technologies moved forward. Miranda filed for separation and got an emergency custody order for Harper. Tyler moved into a small apartment downtown and started intensive gambling addiction counseling. Catherine organized family therapy sessions that everyone agreed were necessary, and nobody wanted to attend. Through it all, Lennox and I navigated the chaos together. I moved in officially 2 weeks later, and yes, I took up 60% of the closet. Lennox complained exactly once before I threatened to move my entire shoe collection into his home office. We argued about code during work hours and kissed in the elevator, and scandalized HR with our complete disregard for typical workplace relationship protocols. Diane drafted new policies around spousal employment specifically to cover us, then sent us both a bill for her extra hours with a note that said, "You're welcome, you disasters." Jeremy started a betting pool on how long until our first major public argument. I won him $20 when Lennox and I got into a heated debate about user interface design during a board meeting and had to be separated by the CFO. Catherine hosted Sunday dinners every week. Harper brought dinosaur books and asked progressively harder questions. Miranda slowly started smiling again. Malcolm and I had our Scotch dates while the others played board games. It was messy and complicated, and nothing like the clean, professional life I'd imagined when I first started at Hayes Technologies. It was perfect. 6 months after Vegas, Vanessa Park published her follow-up article titled, "The Couple Who Made It Work, A Vegas Wedding Success Story." In it she wrote, "Against all odds, every piece of business advice and several HR policies, Paige and Lennox Hayes have proven that sometimes the most impulsive decisions lead to the most lasting results. They still argue in meetings. Famously, their debate about the new user dashboard went viral on tech Twitter last month. They still challenge each other relentlessly. Paige has killed 3 of Lennox's brilliant ideas this quarter alone. And they're still married, with no prenup expiration date in sight, and a shared last name that appears on all company documents. When asked what advice they'd give to other couples navigating workplace relationships, Lennox said, "Don't. It's a terrible idea that will complicate everything and probably violate at least 6 HR policies." Paige added, "But if you do it anyway, and you probably will because love makes idiots of us all, make sure they're worth the chaos. Make sure they challenge you and support you and drive you absolutely insane in the best possible way. Make sure when the crisis hits, and it will, you want them in the foxhole with you." After watching them interact for 30 seconds at their office, finishing each other's sentences while simultaneously disagreeing about project timelines, it's clear they both think the other is worth it. P.S. Their jokes still aren't funny, but at least they have each other to laugh at them. I framed that article and hung it in our home office, right next to the terrible Vegas chapel photo that Lennox had indeed saved for legal documentation purposes. Because some mistakes aren't mistakes at all. Some mistakes are just the beginning of the best decision you'll ever make. And sometimes you just have to trust that the person you married drunk in Vegas is the same person you'd choose sober in San Francisco. Every single time, even when they steal your coffee. Especially when they steal your coffee. Epilogue. 1 year later. "Absolutely not," I said, staring at the small velvet box in Lennox's hand. "We're already married. You can't propose to me. It's a renewal of vows proposal," he corrected, "or a proposal for an actual wedding. Take your pick." We had a wedding. Elvis officiated. There was neon. It was very authentic Vegas. Harper wants to be a flower girl. My mother wants to plan something that doesn't involve a drive-through chapel. And He opened the box, revealing a stunning ring that was nothing like the Vegas special we'd bought at 2 a.m. from a gift shop that also sold shot glasses. Want to do this right. With witnesses who aren't Elvis impersonators and vows we'll both remember. And a ceremony that doesn't involve anyone saying, "Thank you very much." I looked at the ring, at Lennox, down on one knee in our living room on a random Tuesday evening. At the life we'd built from tequila and impulse and stubborn determination to make the impossible work. "You're serious. Completely serious. Marry me again, Paige. Properly this time. With your family and my family and Harper throwing flowers and probably dinosaur facts. With vows we write ourselves and a reception where we can actually remember the toasts. With everything we should have had the first time if I hadn't been an impulsive idiot in Vegas. You were a sober, calculated idiot in Vegas. I was the drunk one. Semantics, will you marry me again? I pretended to think about it. What's the prenup situation? No prenup. What's mine is yours, including the company, the absurd apartment, and the alphabetized spice collection you've ruined. I improved your spice collection. Organization by frequency of use is superior to alphabetical. See? This is exactly why we need to renew our vows. So I can promise to love you even when you're objectively wrong about spice organization. I'm never wrong about organization. You put paprika with the regularly used spices. Paprika page. When was the last time we used paprika? Last Tuesday when I made that chicken dish you claimed was the best thing you'd ever eaten. That was, okay, fine, that was amazing. But my point stands. What was your point? Marry me? I laughed, pulling him up and kissing him thoroughly. Yes, you ridiculous man. Yes, I'll marry you again, but I have conditions. Of course you do. Harper gets to be the flower girl, but she gets to wear whatever she wants. If she wants dinosaurs on her dress, she gets dinosaurs. Obviously. What else? We write our own vows, and yours have to be better than lifetime contract. I've been working on them for months. Of course you have. I held out my hand for the ring. And I want the Vegas photo displayed prominently at the reception. Everyone should know about our questionable decision-making skills. Agreed. What else? Your jokes still aren't funny, and I reserve the right to say that in my vows. They're hilarious and you know it. They're really not. I admired the ring he slipped onto my finger. A perfect fit, of course, because Lennox Hayes didn't do anything without research and planning. But I love that you think they are. Is that going in your vows? Absolutely. Along with the part about how you're controlling and stubborn and think you're always right. I usually am right. And how you're also brilliant and loyal and the best partner I could have asked for, even if I found you in the most ridiculous way possible. His arms came around me, pulling me close. Think we can survive another wedding? Planning with my mother involved? We survived Vegas, corporate espionage, family drama, and moving in together. How hard can one wedding be? Famous last words, as it turned out. Catherine went into full planning mode within hours of hearing the news. Harper started sketching dress designs that featured increasingly anatomically accurate dinosaurs. Miranda offered to help plan, then immediately started crying because the last wedding she'd planned was her own, which led to family therapy session number 47. Tyler, surprisingly, sent a card from his new life in Portland, where he was working in construction and attending GA meetings 5 times a week. It said, "Congratulations on choosing each other twice. Some of us don't get it right even once." Miranda cried over that too, but said she appreciated it. The wedding was planned for spring in the Hayes family garden, with approximately 200 guests and enough flowers to supply a small country. I insisted on a tech-free ceremony. Lennox argued for live streaming. We compromised on a photographer who wasn't allowed to post anything until we approved it. My family flew in from the East Coast, utterly baffled by my whirlwind romance with my boss, but charmed by Lennox within 5 minutes of meeting him. "He's very handsome," my mother whispered. "And rich. You did well, honey." "Mom!" "What?" "I can appreciate these things." "Does he have any single brothers?" "Just the one sister, and she's working through some things right now." As the wedding date approached, I found myself getting nervous in a way I hadn't been in Vegas. This time it meant something. This time we were choosing each other with full knowledge of what we were getting into. The arguments, the complications, the complete impossibility of separating work from life when you married your CEO. The night before the wedding, I found Lennox in his office at home writing something on his laptop. "Vows?" I asked. "Vows," he confirmed, having a minor panic attack about them. "You? Panic? Never. I want them to be perfect. This is important." I read over his shoulder. They were beautiful, funny, and honest, and deeply personal. Everything I'd expect from Lennox when he let his guard down. "They're perfect," I said. "But maybe add something about the coffee theft, for accuracy." "You think?" "I think honesty is important in marriage." He pulled me into his lap. "Are you nervous about tomorrow?" "Terrified. You?" "Same, but the good kind of terrified. The I can't believe I get to do this terrified. We already did this, in Vegas, with Elvis. This is different. This time we know what we're doing. Do we, though?" Not even a little bit. He kissed me softly. But we'll figure it out. We always do. The wedding was beautiful. Harper wore a flower girl dress covered in scientifically accurate velociraptors and stole the show. Catherine cried through the entire ceremony. Malcolm made a toast about how he'd won another $50 betting on Lennox's happiness. Miranda was my maid of honor, standing strong despite everything she'd been through. She hugged me before I walked down the aisle and whispered, "Thank you for loving my brother. He needed someone who wouldn't put up with his nonsense." And the vows. The vows were perfect. Lennox promised to love me even when I reorganized his systems, to support my projects even when he thought they were doomed, to argue with me respectfully about code and life and everything in between. I promised to love him even when his jokes fell flat, to challenge him when he needed it, to steal his coffee every morning for the rest of our lives. We promised to be partners in every sense, business and personal, crisis and calm, success and failure. And when we kissed, officially married for the second time, the crowd erupted in applause that had nothing to do with corporate networking and everything to do with joy. At the reception, Vanessa Park cornered us with her ever-present notepad. "Final question for the follow-up article," she said. "Was it worth it? All the chaos and complications and HR violations?" Lennox and I looked at each other. "Every single second," I said. "Even the part where you almost got fired for insubordination?" Vanessa asked. "Especially that part. It led to my first promotion. And you?" She turned to Lennox. "Any regrets about marrying your employee in Vegas?" "Just one," he said seriously. I looked at him surprised. "I regret not doing it sooner. Should have married her the day she told me my user interface was garbage and redesigned it to be better." "That would have been even more inappropriate," I pointed out. "But efficient. You can't marry someone for efficiency." "Why not? We do everything else for efficiency." "We do not." "Okay, we do, but that's different." Vanessa laughed. And there they go again. Some things never change. She was right. We still argued. We still challenged each other. We still drove each other absolutely crazy. But now we did it with matching rings and joint bank accounts and a future we'd chosen together. Twice. Because sometimes the best decisions are the ones that seem completely insane from the outside, but make perfect sense when you're in the middle of it. Sometimes you marry your boss in Vegas and it's the worst idea ever, and sometimes it's the beginning of everything. The end.